Yeah, look, before I get going, I love Heroforge, right? I think it's great for someone like me who can afford Pro and has enough time on my hands to really nerd out on this. It's really awesome. But Heroforge, I believe, has a massive problem in the way it tries, and I believe often fails to hook people at first glance. So this is about first impressions, right? I want Heroforge to keep growing, so I feel the need to stress this. A lot of people, when they first open Heroforge, are immediately put off by the downright dogshit default options. The character you open on starts out looking like a child by their very proportions, made no better by the fact that the original pose is a really derpy looking shrug with a stoned out looking smile. Like, I'm willing to bet most people when they first open this up want to create something badass, you know, like their own D&D character. Now, unless the first character you want to make is a 13-year-old careless bard high on fellweed, the default is really not going to do the trick for you. But Derf, there's options to fix all of that. You can go into measurements and posing to make them look stronger and more heroic. Yeah, I know. I've made entire videos about it. But first impressions matter more than anything. I know this for a fact because I have like 15 friends I've shown Heroforge to, all of them either D&D players or former World of Warcraft role players, some of which are literally IRL model painters and Warhammer fans, right? People who by all logic and reason should become huge Heroforge fans. But out of those 15, maybe 1 or 2 of them actually ended up liking it, and I only have one friend who's actually bought Pro, and only for 1 month. You can't expect someone with no clue about what you can do with Heroforge to like Heroforge off the get-go when all the default options look like shit. It's that simple. I myself was put off of Heroforge the first time I tried it for the very same reason. My girlfriend was put off of Heroforge because the proportions made any female character look like a joke with massive oversized hands. And why do all of the clothes at the start look downright awful with the default measurements? Why do some pieces bulge out massively due to weight sliders while others don't? You can't expect someone trying it out for the first time to know the answers to any of these issues. And it doesn't stop at proportions and poses. The default colors are sometimes good starter points, sure, but the colors, also fail to deliver what most people want. I haven't met a single Heroforge nerd who's done more than a few models and then still considered the default colors to be useful. The default hair colors, for example, make hair look like sticky chocolate cakes, the default eyes are gigantic and make characters look like anime babies, and the default metal colors fail to provide even a most basic, like pure grey steel color. Like, the list goes on, the defaults are shit. So why is it like this? I honestly don't know. The things that I would suggest aren't even that niche, I don't think. Changing some colors up to provide more popular options and making the starting pose and the default body shape a little bit more stereotypically heroic aren't exactly a niche thing that only Heroforge nerds would appreciate. It's something I know for a fact would be appreciated by a lot of people. But again, why? I don't know. The default options have been this way for a really long time. And I mean, sure, we could get conspiratorial about it. I could speculate that Heroforge wants to keep the models small, chunky, and cartoony because it makes them easier to print out. But that would be the cynical answer, right? The more likely answer, in my opinion, is just that they probably don't know just how much this terrible first impression harms Heroforge as a whole, or they underestimate how bad the first impression actually is. And instead, you know, they think that anyone who opens Heroforge will quickly discover how much you can change the model after just a few minutes of mucking around with it, that people will go out of their way to explore their options before they give up and close the browser tab down. But I think that's wrong. I really think that's wrong, and I say that with a lot of personal experience. So what are some really simple changes to fix this that are actually realistic, that are something that Heroforge could realistically implement without really having to do any extra work? Well, for starters, the default pose should be changed to the heroic one, or at least one similar to it instead of a shrug. And the default body shape should be altered, you know, pull down the body weight sliders to make the first clothes people put on less chunky, because believe me, putting new clothes on is always the first thing people do in Heroforge. They put clothes on and then they put gear on. And the body weight sliders, especially when they're pulled up, most of them look downright awful on the models. Secondly, provide more commonly used and popular colors at the top of the color library, stuff that people are realistically going to want to use on their first models. And in those colors, please pull down the fuzz on the cloth and pull up the roughness on the hair color. I could go on. If I wanted to make this list more comprehensive, I could. but I'm trying to stick to the real basics here, because I can't really imagine Heroforge wanting to change that much. Hell, I don't even expect anything to change from this, but I wanted to try and highlight this issue. I know the people at Sky Castle at least have watched some of my videos in the past, so this is a bit of a shot in the dark, and perhaps they'll listen. After all, none of what I'm saying here is exactly a request from myself. It doesn't make the slightest difference what the default options are to me. I'm already a hook nerd, but this is about attracting, you know, new people to Heroforge and keeping them hooked as well, more importantly, because in the end of the day, we all want a larger community, right? I think it's safe to say that Sky Castle, the creators of Heroforge themselves, probably want a large community more than any of us do, right? Especially people who can pay for more pro. But yes, thank you for listening. If you like this video, then please press like. If you dislike this video, then by all means press dislike.